Going once, going twice, third and final call, sold to the highest bidder. As the excitement draws in that you have just won the auction, the cold shiver goes down your back when you realise you have massively overpaid for the property. Hold on. You were the only bidder, and the auctioneer was adamant that you had to offer over a certain price to secure the property. You didn't want to miss out on the property, so you made sure that you led with a strong bid to begin with. We have all been there, the dreaded feeling of overpaying for a property. That thought in your mind, could I have bought the property for less? The auctioneer and sales agent seemed like they were their best friends, and they kept assuring you that you were going to miss out if you didn't have a high enough offer. After they lined up with you behind the sales board, put the sticker on that says sold, shook the wine bottle and sprayed it in the air, and you got the exciting picture with your best friends that you purchased a property. While you were celebrating you purchased the property, they were celebrating how much you just overpaid for the property and what they made for their vendor. But hold on a second, you thought they were helping you out. As a professional buyer's agent in Australia, I have helped many clients navigate the country's real estate market and negotiate successful property purchases. Buying a property can be a daunting task, especially if you're not familiar with the Australian real estate market. However, with the right knowledge and guidance, you can negotiate like a pro and secure your dream house. In this video, I'll share with you my expert insights on how to negotiate a property purchase in Australia with the introduction to buying property. Hopefully, by the end of this, you can be well on your way to treating property like a business. And make sure if you haven't already, click the follow button. And also, let me know your problems in the comments you have in your journey, and I'll create a video for you. Just a little bit about me. I'm Scott Lavoon, and I'm the founder of Wealth Through Property. I started investing at the age of 30 years old while working a full-time job as a tradie. I wasn't on a big income, and within the space of 3 years with the right mentors, I was able to build a system where I was able to retire with over 10 properties and over 100,000 in passive income. Buying property in Australia can be a great investment opportunity, whether you're looking to purchase a family home or an investment property. However, it's essential to understand the Australian real estate market and the legal requirements involved in purchasing a property. In Australia, the real estate market can be highly competitive and prices can vary significantly depending on the location and the type of property. As a buyer, you need to be aware of the current market trends and be prepared to act quickly to secure a property. How many times in your life are you going to negotiate a property purchase? Is it 1 or even 2 times enough to become an expert? This is exactly the problem that most are having when you begin investing in property. They don't have the experiences and don't have the knowledge to make educated decisions. They do a course and overnight become experts, or they take advice from family and friends who don't even own investment properties. The Australian real estate market is complex and can be challenging to navigate, especially for first-time buyers. One of the key factors that influence the Australian property market is supply and demand. The demand for a property in Australia is generally high due to the country's growing population and the increasing number of overseas buyers. As a result, property prices in Australia have been steadily increasing in recent years. Another critical factor that affects the Australian property market is interest rates. Interest rates can have a significant impact on the affordability of property purchases as they affect the cost of borrowing money. When interest rates are low, it can be an excellent time to buy a property, as borrowing costs are lower. Conversely, when interest rates are high, property purchases can become more expensive and demand may decrease. Before you start looking for a property to purchase in Australia, it's essential to do your research and prepare yourself for the buying process. One of the first steps is to determine your budget and how much you can afford to spend on a property. You also need to consider your financing options and determine whether you need to borrow money to purchase a property. It's also a good idea to research your property market in the area you're interested in purchasing a property. Look at recent sales in the area and try to get a sense of the average price for properties in the area. You can also consult with a buyer's agent to get expert advice on the local property market. Negotiating a property purchase in Australia can be challenging and a stressful process. However, with the right approach, you can negotiate like a pro and secure your dream property. Here are some tips to help you negotiate a successful property purchase. Do your research. Before you start negotiating, make sure you have a good understanding of the property market in the area and the current market trends. Be prepared to walk away. If the seller isn't willing to negotiate, be prepared to walk away from a deal. There are always other property deals available, and you don't want to overpay for a property that isn't worth the price. Make a reasonable offer. It's important to make a reasonable offer that reflects the current market value of the property. Avoid making lowball offers that may offend the seller and hinder your negotiations. Be flexible. Negotiation isn't all about finding a compromise that works for both parties. Be willing to be flexible and consider alternative solutions that may work for you and the seller. Take your time. It's important to remember that negotiations can take some time. So don't rush into a decision. Take your time to fully consider all the options and make sure that you're making the right decision. Remove the emotion. It's easy to get emotional when you're negotiating, but it's important to keep your emotions in check. Try to remain objective and logical through the process. The first thing to consider when entering a negotiation is who is the person you're dealing with. Is this a vendor, a real estate sales agent, or even a developer? All these people have different objectives, so it's important to understand what they want in order to negotiate a property. A developer's prime objective is to sell their own stock and make money. A vendor's main objective is to sell their property for as high as they can, and the real estate are on their behalf of the vendor and are in it for their commission. Each of these people have different ways they negotiate, and you need to familiarize yourself with each one of those styles. The prime role as a real estate sales agent is to get the vendor the best and highest price they can. They are going to overinflate the pressure of the property and the market. Sales agents are expert negotiators, actively selling property and negotiating property every day for their sellers. This leaves you in a disadvantage because you are not an expert and you are only doing this for once to a few times in your life, generally spread over many years between each time. A sales agent is going to use all your weaknesses against you, and they know exactly what they are doing. Make sure you know who you are and who you're dealing with, and have your guard up when it comes to negotiations. The vendor is the most important consideration in the negotiation process. They are the person who owns and is selling the property. The vendor wants the highest price they can get. They are guided to this price to their sales agent's appraisal and the current market value and conditions. Does this mean the property is worth what the sales agent has appraised it? The short answer is no. This appraisal is just a starting point for your negotiations. It should be based around the market value and what you are willing to pay. So common negotiation tactics used by sellers. Sellers in Australia also use a range of negotiating tactics to secure the best possible price for their property. The first common tactic is to set a high asking price, which can create a sense of scarcity and urgency among potential buyers. These tactics can be used to create competition and drive up the price of the property. A second common technique is to have an auction. Auctions are a great way for sellers because it helps them set the starting bid and see how far buyers are willing to go. This also allows them to gain an insight into what buyers are willing to pay in order to secure the property. The third common technique is when the property is listed as offers over. This means that the seller has set a minimum price for the property and is expecting potential buyers to make a higher offer than this. This tactic is used to encourage buyers to bid high and compete with each other in order to secure the property. Now, offers over doesn't mean you have to offer offers over. The fourth common tactic is to list property as expression of interest. This tactic gives the seller control as they can take bids from potential buyers and decide one to accept. This allows them to select the best offer for their circumstances. It also doesn't mean that they necessarily tell you what they're after. The fifth common tactic is to list the property as contact agent for more information. This tactic gives the seller more control over the negotiation process as they can investigate potential buyers before deciding which one to proceed with. The sixth common tactic is to stage a property. This is when the seller decorates and furnishes their property to make it look appealing to potential buyers. Staging a property can help generate higher offers and increase the overall value of the property. The seventh common tactic is play on a buyer's emotions. This is when the seller appeals to a buyer's emotions in order to get them to make the highest offer and commit to a sale. This tactic can be used to create urgency, instill fear of missing out, or make buyers feel like they have found their dream home. The eighth common tactic is competition amongst buyers. This is when the seller encourages buyers to compete against each other in order to secure the property. The seller can do this by having multiple offers at the same time or by providing incentives for the buyers to make higher offers. The ninth common tactic is to withhold and not give out other buyers' offers. This creates fear between buyers and pressures offering more in order to secure a property. This tactic can be a powerful negotiation tool for the seller, as it can encourage buyers to make higher offers without seeing what other buyers have offered. A sales agent may say they are not allowed to disclose the other offers, but it's perfectly legal for them to disclose their offers. This is just another tactic. These are all tactics that agents use to get the best price for their vendors. Don't feel like you're missing out if you can't find an opportunity to offer or negotiate on a price below the market value. You should never be scared to walk away from a property if you feel like it's too expensive. There are plenty more properties out there. Just because the agent says offers over or offers between, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to offer that exact price. A property is only worth what someone will offer. Have you ever heard of someone saying the art of negotiation is knowing when to walk away? It's true. If you're not getting the deal that you want, then don't be afraid to walk away. The property is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. And if you don't feel like the price is right, then don't be afraid to walk away. Just because a property is listed as offers over or offers in between XYZ, it doesn't mean you have to over offer or in between XYZ price. You can always make an offer that is lower than asking price. You either have or don't have a motivated vendor. And if you do, there's a good chance of getting a property at a lower price. Market value will always be a fair price. And just because a house is listed at the value of XYZ, it doesn't mean the value of the house or the market is at listing price. Listing price is a reflection the vendor wants to achieve, and the market value is determined by the buyers that are willing to pay. Did you know that first home buyers and people buying their principal place of residence are the reasons market increase in value? A market would never grow if people never over offered. And when the bulk of the people who buy in a particular market over offer, it's what always drives the market up. Think about it. This would mean that over 90% of buyers are actually overpaying for property. And this is how markets increase in value. So should you disclose your highest offer or your capacity to buy? There is no reason you need to keep your highest capacity in a market to yourself. When you're dealing with a real estate agent and they understand your capacity to buy, they are more likely to send you more properties they have for sale that are within your capacity, giving you more opportunity to purchase properties. If they don't know your value, they won't want a time waster, and they don't want to waste their time or even help you, and you could miss out on some great properties. Just because a real estate agent understands your capacity to buy, this does not reflect how much you have to offer or what your final offer will be. There are many variables to consider when making an offer, such as what is the market currently doing and if there are motivated sellers in the market. Just remember, there's also common negotiation tactics used by the buyer. As a buyer, there are a few negotiation tactics that you can use to secure a successful property to purchase in Australia. The first common tactic is to make a conditional offer, which means that the offer is subject to certain conditions, such as obtaining finance or a building and pest inspection. This gives you some protection and allows you to walk away from a deal if your conditions aren't met. The second common tactic is to make an unconditional offer, which is an offer that has no conditions attached. This type of offer shows the seller that you're serious and committed to purchase, but it also means that you're taking on a greater risk if the deal falls through. Third common tactic is to make a preemptive offer, which is an offer that is higher than the asking price. This tactic demonstrates to the seller that you're serious about purchasing the property. It can often be an effective way to secure a property quickly. A fourth tactic is to use a take it or leave it approach, where you make a non-negotiable offer that the seller must accept or reject outright. This approach can be risky as it may turn off some sellers who may be willing to negotiate a little bit. A fifth tactic you can use is a good faith offer that includes an earnest deposit to show that the seller you are serious about purchasing their property. This approach demonstrates to the seller that you are committed to buying and willing to make a reasonable offer. The earnest deposit will be returned if the sale falls through. The sixth tactic you can make an off-market offer before the property is officially listed on the market. This may be advantageous as there may be with less competition and you may have more leverage in negotiations. This approach should only be used if you're confident you can secure the property at a reasonable price. Off market does not mean better. The seventh tactic is a settlement extension. This involves offering a settlement period that is longer than the standard 30 days, which, if the buyer has the urgency to sell, can be a great incentive for them to accept your offer. For every price increase you negotiate, the vendor will have to give up something else in the agreement, such as a longer settlement period. The eighth tactic is favourable conditions to the vendor. This means that you're willing to offer more favourable conditions to the vendor, such as you're pre-approved with the banks, you have no finance clauses, you opt out of your calling off period, or the settlement timeframe can be based on the vendor's needs. You can use a combination of the tactics mentioned above to get an edge in your journey. A buyer's agent can be an invaluable resource when purchasing a property in Australia. A good buyer's agent can help you negotiate the complex of Australian property market, negotiate with the seller, and find properties that meet your specific needs and budget. When choosing a buyer's agent for buying your dream home, it's essential to do your research and choose someone with experience in the local property market you're actively looking in. Or for investment purposes, understand how to use data, trends, and statistics, as well as have an extensive background in investing in properties themselves. Look for a licensed real estate who has a good reputation, excellent communication skills, and a track record of successful property purchases. Once you have successfully negotiated a property purchase in Australia, the next step is to close the deal and complete the purchase. This involves exchanging signed contracts and paying a deposit, which is usually 5 to 10% of the purchase price depending on where in Australia you buy. The settlement period, which is typically 30 to 90 days, allows the time for the buyer to obtain financing, complete any necessary inspections, and ensure that all legal requirements are met. Once the settlement period is over, the buyer can take possession of the property and pay the remaining balance. Now, there is also some legal considerations when negotiating a property purchase. When negotiating a property purchase in Australia, it's essential to be aware of the legal requirements involved in the process. Here are some key legal considerations to keep in mind. Now, we always suggest with anything legal, go speak to a lawyer. Don't take anything from this, but go speak to a lawyer. You've got the contract of sales. The contract of sales is a legally binding agreement that outlines the terms and conditions of the property purchase. It's crucial to review the contract carefully, including the purchase price, deposit amount, settlement date, special conditions, and any contingencies. Consider engaging a qualified conveyancer or solicitor to review your contract and provide advice before signing. So, due diligence. Conducting thorough due diligence is essential to uncover any potential legal issues or risk associated with the property. This may include obtaining building and pest inspections, reviewing property titles, checking for encumbrances or easements, and investigating any planning or zoning restrictions. Engaging professionals such as building inspectors, property lawyers can assist in conducting comprehensive due diligence. You've got the finance and mortgage considerations too. If you require financing to purchase this property, ensure you have a clear understanding of the mortgage terms and conditions. Review the loan document, including interest rates, repayment terms, and any associated fees. It's advisable to consult with a mortgage broker or a financial advisor to ensure you're well aware of your financial obligations and the implications of the mortgage agreement. Like with legal advice, it's recommended to seek legal advice from a property lawyer or conveyancer experienced in real estate transactions. They can guide you through the legal process, review contracts, handle negotiations, provide advice on any legal implications specific to your situation. Through this whole process, remember, you've got negotiations and you can counter offer. During the negotiation process, it's essential to communicate your requirements clearly and be aware of any counter offers presented by the seller. Understanding the legal implications of proposed changes of the contract terms, seeking legal advice before accepting or counter offering can help protect your interests. When you purchase a property, you've also got the property title and ownership. Confirm that the seller has legal ownership and the right to sell the property. Conducting a title search and verifying the seller's identity is important to ensure a legitimate transfer. Your legal representative can assist you in verifying the property's title and ensuring a smooth transfer of ownership. The settlement process involves the finalization of the purchase, includes the transfer of funds, documentation, and title deeds. Engaging a settlement agent or conveyancer can help ensure that all necessary legal requirements are met and the transaction is completed correctly. It's important to remember that the legal considerations during a property purchase can be depending on the jurisdiction and specific circumstances. Therefore, it's advisable to seek professional legal advice from qualified experts who specialize in property law to ensure compliance with the applicable laws and regulations to protect your rights and interests throughout the transaction. Becoming a pro at negotiating property purchase in Australia can be challenging, but with the right approach and guidance, you can become a pro at securing your dream home. By understanding the Australian real estate market, preparing for the buying process, and working with a reputable buyer's agent, you can negotiate a successful property purchase that meets your specific needs and budget. Just remember to be flexible, do your research, and be prepared to walk away if the deal isn't right for you. With these tips in mind, you'll be well aware on becoming a pro negotiator to purchase property in Australia.